Welcome everyone to QB Power Hour. Today is Thursday, January 11th, 2018. So Happy New Year, everybody. 2018 promises to be the busiest tax season for accountants yet because we got two things going on. We got our regular tax work and then we got tax law changes for 2018, which I assume a lot of folks are inquiring about. Our topic for today will be payroll. We're going to do a deep dive on QuickBooks Desktop Payroll with our guest speakers, Greg Bosson and Don Brolin. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the webinar itself, the sponsors, and the host. We'll talk about the CPE process, and then we'll get into the main content, which I'll spend a few minutes going over 1099 forms in QuickBooks Online, which is a brand new feature, brand spanking new, just came out a few days ago. And then QuickBooks Desktop Payroll with Greg and Don, that will take about 45 minutes, and then a webinar will end within the hour. Our webinar series is usually twice a month or every other Thursday. This is the schedule that we have now. On 1/25 on January 25th, we'll have episode 2 of Apps Power Hour with Heather and Michelle, and then we'll have sales tax topics in February and some other pending topics February and March, and then ending of March we'll talk about QBooks. Normally we do about 50% desktop, 50% online. We try to keep it half and half. The last couple of episodes were about online, so we're going to do a deep dive in desktop today. We'd like to thank our sponsors, TSheets, #1 rated app in apps.com. Create, manage, and approve timesheets from any device, tsheets.com/pros. Set up your free account as an accountant. And by the way, TSheets works really, really well with QuickBooks Desktop Payroll, so it's good app for that. Also, we'd like to thank Aero Workflow, the only workflow manager that was created by a QuickBooks ProAdvisor, mostly for ProAdvisors and QuickBooks-centric accountants. It's fully integrated with QuickBooks Online, aeroworkflow.com. And HopDoc, which is the most popular document aggregator for QuickBooks Power users. It's a really good document manager, and you can automate bank statements, receipt, bill automation. Hopdoc.com/QB Power Hour will get you a free account as an accountant. Michelle Long is a co-host of QB Power Hour. She's not with us today. I believe she's traveling and doing some training. But check out her books in Amazon.com. Check out her blog at longforsuccess.com and her LinkedIn group called Successful QuickBooks Consultants. About myself, I'm a CPA, work and live in the Miami, Florida area, and I teach QuickBooks in my own classroom. There's the website to my business. My email is hector@garciacpa.com, and there's my Twitter handle if you want to talk to me directly. This webinar is CPE eligible. So to get your CPE, you must attend the webinar live. Recordings don't get CPE. You have to be logged in for at least 50 minutes. We will give you 4 questions in total. Sorry, the instructions are kind of mixed there. We'll give you 4 polling questions in total. You need to answer at least 3 of the 4 polling questions in order to get your CPE certificate that usually gets emailed within 3 weeks. We are cut up on CPEs up to December 7th. We only have the December 28th one we haven't done. We'll do it in the next couple of days. And then the CPE for this one will take 2 to 3 weeks to get sent. Today's episode is not approved for ACE. However, we've done ACE episodes before. If you don't know what ACE means, just don't worry about it. Upcoming events, Scaling New Heights in June 17th, wooderevents.com. Biggest QuickBooks conference that's more techy and also covers QuickBooks desktop topics. And then we'll have QuickBooks Connect in November, which is mostly all about QuickBooks Online. That's an Intuit run conference. Now, let me jump into my topic before we pass it on to Greg and Don. I'm going to quickly cover the new 1099 miscellaneous forms in QuickBooks Online. First of all, let me say, in my opinion, one of the best things I've seen Intuit do for the QuickBooks Online product in a very, very long time. It is absolutely amazing. I'm super happy about how simple and easy it is to use. So let's jump to that. Let me go into Google Chrome. I think you should be able to see my browser now. And I have a QuickBooks Online account open. And one of the things that is noticeable is they added a new tab called Workers. If I click on the new tab called Workers, you're going to get basically it looks like a new screen that splits employees and contractors as two different subtabs. A contractor in QuickBooks is basically a vendor that has been marked as a 1099 contractor. Let me explain what that means. So if I go into the expenses tab and go to the vendor tab, which is a traditional place where we create our vendors, and I create a new vendor from this screen. So let me click on new vendor, and I'm going to create here Carlos Garcia. There's a little checkbox here that says track 1099 payments. So if we are dealing with a contractor that we want to issue a 1099 at the end of the year, we have to hit that checkbox. Whenever we hit that checkbox, QuickBooks will copy that vendor information over to that workers contractors section, which is then where you're going to be able to manage all the 1099 information. Now, in order to do a 1099, you need to have a tax ID. You need to have the address. I mean, these are fundamental pieces of the 1099 process. So we're going to go ahead and click on save. And did I miss a number here? You click on save. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That should cover it. You have to use that dash in there. I didn't realize that was a requirement. So we'll click on save. So there's my Carlos Garcia contractor. So when I click on workers and then click on contractors, I'm now going to see them in the list of contractors. Now, once you generate checks and bills for those vendors, you are then going to be able to prepare a 1099 at the end of the year. Now, this is drop dead simple to use. Once you've done your regular checks and bills, you click on the prepare 1099 button on the top. On the pricing, you actually have to pay an extra fee. I believe is, where is it? It is $15 that includes 3 forms. And then each additional form is $3.99, and beyond 20 forms are free. Now, this is the first year that they do this pricing. Let me zoom in a little bit. So for what I understand is you're going to pay $15 for 3 1099s, then $4 a form, and then from the 21st contractor and on, you don't pay any extra. So that is absolutely amazing. I got some clients that have a lot of contractors, and this is going to be an extremely low price for them, relatively speaking, with what they paid in the past. So we're going to click on prepare 1099 and then click on continue to your 1099s. The first box is going to make sure that you have full information about each contractor. If you click on any of these contractors and they're missing information, you're then going to be able to enter name, last name, address, social security number, all that information in there. QuickBooks even included a new feature when you create the worker at the beginning, it will ask you if you want to email the worker a link so they can enter their own W-9 information. So let me show you what that looks like. When the subcontractor gets an email, they get an email like this that says, hey, this company is asking you to enter 1099 details. You click on add your details now, and it basically sets them up with a free, which is amazing, free QuickBooks self-employed account. So they have to create a QuickBooks self-employed account, and then once they enter all the information there, the name, the address, the tax ID, or social security number, whatever it might be, QuickBooks automatically updates that on the QuickBooks Online side. That way you don't have to type all that information by hand. However, you can just click on it and enter it by hand if you already happen to have that information. So you don't necessarily have to have the contractor enter the W-9 info, but you can do it on your own. Then we click on finish preparing 1099s, and that's it. It takes you to the payment screen. You click on go to e-file service, process it, and it takes literally minutes. I mean, I was afraid of doing a demo on this because I was thinking, oh, this was going to take a long time. I won't be able to do this in 5 minutes. I literally did it in 5 minutes. So I'm actually really, really impressed by that. It's the first time I've seen Intuit create something so simple, especially for non-accountants. I mean, for accountants, we can figure things out, but for end users, this is super simple, easy to use. I'm sure some accountants won't be very happy about being left out of the loop on 1099s, but it looks like a really, really good a really, really good solution for customers. Okay, so let me move it over to our guest speakers. Greg, let me give you the floor, Greg. I'm gonna unmute you, and I'll introduce you real quick. So Greg is actually one of my favorite trainers from the conferences I go to, QB Connect and Scaling New Heights. He teaches a lot about construction accounting and nonprofit. In both of these areas, payroll needs to be allocated to jobs and classes, which is a significant piece of managing both construction and nonprofit. And the name of his company, I believe, is his name, Greg Boston CPA, but he also has a company called QuickBooks Made Easy, which is sponsoring this episode as well. They're gonna do pure content on QuickBooks Desktop, and then they're gonna offer a specific training program they have for QuickBooks Desktop. And according to his slide, he's an all-around good guy. Greg, did I miss anything important about you?
No, well, except for the obnoxious part, but I'm glad you left that out.
Right. All right, so now Don, who co-wrote or co-produced the QuickBooks Desktop training program with Greg, is also with us here today. Don is an advanced QuickBooks ProAdvisor. She's the first person I ever learned advanced QuickBooks techniques from back in like 2012 or 2013, where she taught the QuickBooks Advanced ProAdvisor program. She's a CPA and a fraud examiner, and she does a lot of quick tax representation work for small business owners. And she kind of looks like Melissa McCarthy. She's a better looking version of Melissa McCarthy, and she says that Melissa McCarthy stole her material. Don, did I miss anything on you, or?
I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah, because she did. So
okay.
She's making money off of me.
Yeah, there you go. So Greg, I'll give you the floor. You can take over. Do you want? I can just control this slide, and then when Dawn's ready, I'll give her presentation.
Yeah, that's fine. Why don't we do that? All right. So couple of things. What I wanted to say first of all is that, doing QuickBooks Payroll and desktop and doing QuickBooks Payroll and online are two different things. And so it's important that when you watch one of these things, you got to focus on one or the other. And I don't know about you guys, but Dawn and I feel pretty strongly that the desktop version is still superior to the online edition. Be interested, you can chat me up or put a question in there or comment if you think differently when it comes to payroll. One thing is you can split paychecks between jobs and classes very easily, automatically using timesheets and desktop. One of the things we teach in our training product, but can't really do that in the online edition. But so the point that I want to make here is a few years ago, and I teach QuickBooks all over the country. I do webinars, seminars. We have training products. We also have technical support agreements. Dawn and I got together and realized there really wasn't any good training in QuickBooks Desktop Payroll. And so we did a product together last year, QuickBooks Payroll, The Essentials. It's for the desktop. It's about 6 hours of learning. It's a DVD, and it comes with a handbook. So the DVD is you're watching videos. I'm going to let you see one of the videos, actually. We'll talk about that later. And it goes through every single thing you could possibly know about doing QuickBooks Payroll in desktop, from which product should you get, how to set it up, how to set up your direct deposit, how to set up to pay taxes online, how to enter timesheets, how to do the paychecks, all the way through the taxes and the reporting at the end of the quarter and the end of the year. And then it keeps going. If you look at some of these topics at the end here, correcting a paycheck entered incorrectly, unscheduled payroll, employee advances like bonuses, correcting incorrectly paid payroll liabilities. This is about 6 hours of learning. It's excellent. Dawn did the recording of it, so if you like her, you'll love this. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach what we think are some really particular topics that we can teach in about 45 minutes here, pull out some of this stuff and let Dawn show you live. And then at the end of this, we're going to give you a coupon. This product is normally $300. We're going to give it to you for $149 with a coupon, and then we're going to also offer some tech support stuff. But so that's kind of what the dealio is. And Dawn, I'm going to turn it over to you to get started. So, anything I missed, Dawn, or what do you think?
No, I think you're in good shape there. As always, I mean, you're very fit. But so I think, yeah.
But Don, I made you presenter. Don, I made you presenter now, so you have to share your screen. And
yep. Should be good. Can you see it?
Yeah, you're good to go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you
again. You can turn on your
for
webcam optionally, by the way, if you want to do that as well. That's only optional.
Well, yeah, that's optional because let's just say that I'm not presentable at this moment. My hair is up in a ponytail because I'm rocking it, working like an animal. So thank you again so much. We are really excited to be here, and what Hector and Michelle are doing for the community is just absolutely phenomenal. And so I'm very honored to be here among the best of the best. And so, people are asking how detailed is the course, and how are we going to, what are they going to learn? Now we dove pretty deep.
Hey, Dawn. Hey, Dawn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, talk louder or closer to the mic. People are having trouble hearing you.
Oh, we don't want that.
No.
Look at this. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold the phone on my ear. I don't have a fancy.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, because Hector's fancy, but whatever. It's all good. So I want to make sure, I want to thank everybody. This is going to be, what I'm going to do is I picked out a few things that are really critical to year end, as well as, hey, I think I'm interested in getting started doing payroll services or whatever the case may be for your firm. Or maybe there's a few things that I can't, that I didn't know about, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to walk through just a handful of things that I think you're going to definitely enjoy and learn if you've never seen this before. So the first topic we're going to talk about in the agenda is the QuickBooks Enhanced Payroll for Accountants and how to add a client. Now, some of you have been likely using the desktop for forever, like I have, and maybe you already know the answer to this. But if you didn't, I will tell you that for $250 a year, as part of your Desktop ProAdvisor membership, you can add what I'll call an unlimited amount of clients. We'll say 50. They say it's a soft ceiling. We love soft ceilings of 50 clients that you can add and prepare payroll and handle payroll services for your client. And so some people love to do that. And if that's the case, for $250 a year to have the ability to run that payroll, I'm going to show you how you take a client's QuickBooks file. So they may have an existing QuickBooks file that they've had for many years. They've been maybe outsourcing payroll, and now they want to do more job costing. So, and what I love about Greg is he teaches so much about the job costing. So maybe you need to bring the data in locally into a desktop file. And now you're saying, hey, we're going to do job costing this year. We need to do it within QuickBooks. And I want to have the control as the accountant, or maybe a controller within a company wants to have the control of payroll, utilizing T-sheets and having that interaction, which is what we do. So what you can do is just go up to the Employee Center in that existing data file, or a brand new file, of course, and go down to payroll. And of course, this requires you to have that license as a ProAdvisor, an enhanced payroll for accountants. I'm not positive you can buy that separately from the ProAdvisor program. I've never done that, but I mean, it's a no-brainer to be in the ProAdvisor program if you're not already.
Done.
So yes. Under the payroll, yes.
Real quick, so you can buy it, if you're not a ProAdvisor, you can buy it separately for $579. But if you are a ProAdvisor, it's an extra $250, and it gives you up to 50 EINs, 50 right. After the fact payroll companies you can run through it.
Correct. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. It's perfect. So we'll be able to go in here. And one of the things you need to make sure you know before you come in to turn it on. Now we're in a hosting environment, so sometimes you'll see other licenses. So the first thing you need to do is use my existing payroll service. So we're not going to turn on payroll. We're not going to enter a service key, which is what we used to have to do years ago. You'd have to call into it, give them your number, and then they would give you a payroll service key. So now we can just go in and hit use my existing payroll service. And so it's going to launch the subscription, and it's going to say, okay, which subscription do you want to use? And so for me, because I'm in a dedicated environment, it's going to give me my subscription number, and then I'll just hit next, and I'm going to add that to my particular payroll. So I'll enter the client's information in here. I'm going to remain the payroll administrator, which you need to be if you're going to be adding a client. You need to be the administrator, because one of the rules is you have to be in the holder of the payroll file. So let's make sure that's very clear. So if you go on site to a client and someone else has the control over that payroll, you're not supposed to use your license, your subscription on that particular payroll. So let's make sure that's also very clear. This is for in-house, you do the payroll type of clients. So you fill this all out and hit submit, and it will open up the payroll functionality within QuickBooks. So because we have this presentation, I had already done that for you. and I activated the payroll. So you'll notice down here, now the employee portion of your QuickBooks file is what we'll call now live, okay? So that's to turn it on through that. And again, we go through that in the product. So if you miss that, or if I go too fast, which I try to slow down a little bit. I have a little bit of energy, 2 cups of coffee. I try to go slow for you. But if you need more information on that, just feel free to jump into the product. So next, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is year-end bonuses, which is one of the really great perks of having the control over the payroll file. Okay, great. So what I would say, what I want to move on to is year-end bonuses. Now, for those of you who are working with clients, we love them, don't we? We love them because we make money because of them. And so year-end bonuses after the fact. I know last week we went in, because we've been closing books like crazy over the last week, and we went in to do a reconciliation, and we found 4 checks written on the same day, 3 for $500 and 1 for $1,000. Immediately, at the bottom of the memo, bonus. We called the client and said, listen, you got to run that stuff through payroll. You cannot be writing hand checks for bonuses. We know that it's personal. We understand they want to do that. But now we've got year-end bonuses that have not been accounted for in our payroll. So we have to go in doing an after-the-fact treatment of those bonuses because we know we need to make sure that we're doing that. So in this case, we'll do an after-the-fact payroll. And so we'll put in whatever the date may be for the particular check, and we'll pick the employee to see Greg. He doesn't ever pay attention to what he's supposed to be doing, and he got a $1,000 check. And so maybe it was a net check. So after the fact, he got a net check of $1,000. So we want to enter that check as a net. And it's going to, of course, tell us that there's an out of balance because I went ahead and put the $1,000 in first. But what we want to do is put it into the net and say, okay, net pay is $1,000. I want you to gross up the payroll so that we have the effect of the particular taxes, and then it's included on their W-2. And so we want to make sure in here that we come in, do the after-the-fact payroll, and properly apply his particular bonus to his W-2. So let's just make sure that that happens. And one of the things that you can do, and I loved someone asked if you can do that as far as job costing goes, if you want to apply it to a job. And I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, what you would do is go to the Start Unscheduled Payroll, and you can actually do it as if you're preparing payroll, which you're not, change your dates and everything. But you would put a bonus in here, and you could break it out by customer or by class or whatever you happen to be doing. You can apply that bonus maybe to a different division. So if I've got 3 divisions in a company and I have someone in HR who's getting a bonus, that would go to my administrative class. If it was, the Rhode Island, Heather Satterley division, I would do a Rhode Island class, and I may want to classify part of the bonus to Rhode Island. And so you have the ability in 2 different ways, just to put a bonus in the after the fact, or come in to regular payroll, enter a net check down at the bottom right corner. You see that? So I'm going to give a $1,000 bonus. I can go ahead and do that. It'll gross up the taxes, and I can apply it to a customer. And if I had class tracking turned on, it certainly would, it would do it to a customer or to a class if I had classes turn on. So those after the fact treatments, you can't do those types of things just by coming in and putting them in and moving on with your life. If you have assisted payroll, or you have QBO full service payroll, or into a full service payroll, which is a whole nother, don't even get me started, but you have to call into it, and you have to make sure that you send those files. You cannot backdate things when you're in a full service. You have to actually call and make them make those adjustments. So love the fact that with the preview paycheck and being able to put the stuff in an enhanced payroll scenario gives you many, many more options and many, many more controls. And I think that's why after the fact treatment, not just for year-end bonuses, but for payroll in general, when you discover someone hired someone and they didn't even tell you, which does happen if you're wondering, so that you're able to control that data file, control that payroll, and very, very important. So I hope that makes sense. Greg, do you have anything to add on that, or are we pretty good there? Okay, we're good.
I'm fine. One person wanted to know where the class was, but you had already said the class isn't on the screen because you just hadn't turned it on. It would be once you activated it.
Yeah, if I turn on class tracking because I want to do class tracking right here, then it would show up. And so if we go back in here, I just turned the class tracking on. you'll notice,
up here in the upper right.
So, yeah.
It's in the upper right.
So, yeah, right up in here. Hold on just a second. Right here. So I would want, if I want to do it globally, but if I want to do it in detail, I have to go in and do a different setting. But anyway, so for now, just so you know, this is why the desktop just rules over everything else when it comes to enhanced, because you as the accountant, the key point here is you, the accountant, have the absolute control over payroll. And in some cases, you need to be. In some cases, we put them on a full service because we want to lock them down. But understand that at year end, when you're trying to get W-2s out and 1099's and you're doing 9 million things, as Hector described earlier, well, when we were talking earlier, that, you know, you don't have time to deal with all this stuff, and you want to lock them down. But we do. We deal with them. We have clients, you know, no matter what we try to do. We're issuing handwritten bonus checks. We have to pay attention to that. So I want to move on to the next little piece. And again, all of this stuff is very detailed. All of these instructions are extremely detailed in the product. So we're kind of ripping through them because we only have an hour. We could spend a week going through payroll, which Greg and I love to do, and just kind of talk to you about all the different enhancements that desktop can do for you. But let's talk about how to add like a child support I used for an example, how to add child support for an employee. Now, this is really important because, you know, you're fighting, whether it's child support, there may be cases where you have people who want to have alimony after the fact withheld so that they have it taken out of their check so they're not spending it and they're able to pay it. Whatever the case may be, you can do anything you want with regards to withholding from an employee. Maybe you give a loan or shareholder loan for your S corps, where these people have to pay this stuff back. We're finding with IRS that they're looking at these S corp returns and saying, why do they have a $200,000 shareholder loan and they're not paying it back? Well, guess what? We're going to make a distribution as a dividend to the business owner, and they're going to have to pay tax on it. And that's what the IRS is doing. So we, as the practitioner within a payroll system for people who are an S corp return, it's really important that we start paying attention to that more now than ever. And so, yes, and we should be paying attention to that. I find that people are not paying attention to those particular areas within an S corp because we're so busy. But I'll tell you, the IRS is paying attention, and so that's our job as the practitioners to protect our clients. So let's go ahead and set up a child support. You know, and these are more common, unfortunately, than we've seen in the past. And so we seem to be setting up child support, not just for one state in some cases, but for multiple states. And so in those cases, we do set up separate payroll items by state so that when we go to pay the liability, it's got all of the correct information on it that the state needs in the memo. So for this payroll item, we'll do a new payroll item. And I am a fan of the custom setup because I know what I'm doing. So for those who understand payroll, which I recommend if you're doing payroll, you understand it, right? I know it seems silly, but really understanding if you're doing payroll, it's not just clicks of a button. You really should understand exactly what the deductions are and how they operate. And that's something that you would learn outside of the product and then apply that knowledge to these types of setups. So we're going to go ahead and do this. It's going to be a deduction for the client, for the employee. And this is just going to be child support. And I'm going to say Connecticut because that's where I live. So it's fun. And I'm going to say next. And so this will be the state of Connecticut. Very simple to set up. I'll just quick add them here. And then, of course, this is really critical, which I have a little bit of an issue with, I'll be honest. In the memo, putting a client's social or an employee's social security number in a memo of a check makes me a little nervous. I know there's mail fraud if people get it, but still, I always want to protect myself. But let's just say it's this person, a 22, and then we'll just put in their social. We'll make it up. And so from here, what we would also want to do is break out our payroll liabilities by adding a new liability specifically for child support, Connecticut. So I know at all times as the business owner, if I see something in child support in this on the balance sheet, because I know your clients all look at the balance sheet. So child support, right? Making sure that they know if they haven't made a payment, it's not necessarily your fault unless your engagement letter states that you're in charge of handling the payments to child support. But I suggest that you make a sub account in payroll liabilities for that specifically and for that state. The tax tracking type is none, so we're just going to leave it there. Does not affect taxes. This is a net deduction for child support. just like a shareholder loan would be a net deduction, and so on and so forth. And so that'll be nothing. And then it's not going to be based on quantity or hours necessarily. And then we're going to say that it's a net pay deduction. And so what we do is we leave this zero. So if the client, the amount per employee will be different. So if I have to pay child support and I pay $100 and Greg is going to pay child support and his is $150, we're going to set that up at the employee level, not at the global level. This is a global level setup, meaning it would apply to everyone. And I would just be cautious to put that amount in here, because if you forget to change the amount at the employee level, you may be withholding the wrong amount of money. So just caution you on that. Anything payroll, you want to really make sure you know what you're doing. So we'll go ahead and add that deduction. And so if I come in to my payroll center and Greg, you know, he's a trouble employee, to be honest. So I come into the payroll setup here for Greg and I choose child support, and he's got to do, we'll do $1,000 a month, which is actually pretty cheap. You're welcome. And we just say, okay, when I go to pay his payroll, we'll go ahead and add that to his payroll. And I can't get too deep into it because we've got only so much time, but at least you'll understand, really important when you're setting up those net items that unless it's the same for everyone, you want to make sure you don't set it up in the global setup, but rather you set it up by employee. You can set up things like employee advances. We find that happening a lot in our restaurants, where people are, you know, they're giving them $50 here, $100 there. And it's really important that they track that, and we just pull it right out of their paycheck. And so those are the types of deductions. Obviously, simple plans would be set up in that particular payroll item setup, and other things that you would have, again, client specific. So I think that those are really important. And to look at those now, how are you setting them up? And we're going to move on to the next piece, which is really exciting. I know it's kind of dorky, but moving on to the paying the liability. So we've just added a child support liability. We also have, of course, our tax liabilities that we need to set up. And what I suggest you do certainly is within the payroll setup that you go ahead and set up the payroll tax liabilities in schedules and methods. And so that's what we're going to talk about now. How do we pay these liabilities? A lot of times we have clients who certain days they have to pay the particular liabilities, whether it's a state deduction, whether it's, and of course everyone's different with the federal. Is it monthly? Is it semi-weekly? Is it annual if they're under $1,000? A 944 type of situation. And I will tell you a little hint from what I understand from my conversations with Intuit is that if you call them, and I'm sure Karen and Greg can justify this, but you can set up a farm, a 943, to run through enhanced payroll. You just have to call and make sure they know it's a 943 because it's an odd filing. There's not a ton of farmers, I guess, which I find hard to believe, but you can set it up so you can electronically file a 943 payment through this system. Again, that's kind of a little bit of a little sidebar for you. But you'll want to be in single user mode, of course, when you're doing any of this kind of setup, just so you know. It'll warn you and you'll get mad at it, which we do on a regular basis. So you'll notice down at the bottom of the Employee Center, you're going to see changing payment methods, creating custom payments, depositing a tax refund. So there's some little shortcuts here, but we're going to talk about changing the payment method. And this is going to be as far as how are we going to pay our 941 liabilities? How are we going to pay our state? How are we going to pay child support, and so on? So you'll notice it's a really nice little QuickBooks setup. You'll notice here for ePay, if you want to ePay the federal deposit, if you want to pay that federal deposit, you do have to have EFTPS set up ahead of time. And so you want to get on EFTPS.gov, set your client up with the 941 filing with their bank account so that you can pay those deposits. So if I was to hit ePay, which is the way you want to do it, FYI, I don't even know if you can do it by check. It's these days. We used to take those little coupons down. Boy, that was fun. And then of course you tell them what is my frequency. I just got my own personal frequency letter. I think it was in this beginning of December to tell me what my deposit frequency is. Now here's what I think is wicked funny, because we say wicked up here. But they told me that they want me to deposit monthly based on my liability. And I'm like, I've been paying semi-weekly from a budgeting standpoint. I like to do semi-weekly. And they're like, no, you can't. I'm like, you don't want your money beforehand? Like, it's the weirdest thing in the whole wide world that the IRS would tell me they don't want it as often. Okay, whatever. Anyway, so you want to make sure this payment frequency matches whatever they're telling you to do. So in this case, we're just going to say quarterly because we don't have a lot of payroll because I don't really pay Greg a lot of money, right? So I don't really like to talk to him. So anyway, so we're going to say quarterly on the 940. We're going to say the same for 941. We're going to also e-pay it. And of course, you have to set all of that up ahead of time. And we're going to do this one also quarterly because I don't pay Greg. But certainly you can see after each payroll, which is semi-weekly, if you pay someone on Friday, you owe it the following Wednesday. You can do monthly, quarterly, and annually. Again, the payment frequency for the 941 should match what the IRS dictates. So we're going to say quarterly in this case. Then you'll notice Connecticut unemployment. This shows non-standard account because I made up this file. But I will tell you with unemployment, you can e-pay this and e-file. Now, I believe there's a list of states, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hector. I believe I think almost everybody at this point is allowing you to e-file. What I would caution you on, e-payments is very different than e-filing. So you may make e-payments to the state of Connecticut, but you still have to go onto their website at this point. It used to be able to have to go on their website and file the return through their system. They've changed that now, I believe, in the last year and a half for Connecticut. But you have to be cautious when you make the payment. If you're not actually filing the form while making the payment, you need to make sure you're doing the form on their site. So it's going to be state driven. You need to make sure you do your homework on it. I know for Connecticut, we can't pay unemployment without filing the return. So when I do my quarterly return, my quarterly payment, I have to pay with the return. I can't just file the return.
So every state,
make sure you know those rules.
Since you mentioned my name, every state is different. In Florida, for example, when you select e-pay, it e-files and e-pays at the same time for the Florida unemployment. Right. Somebody's saying that Wisconsin doesn't have any electronic, so that has to be all done by paper. And like you said, in Connecticut, it's two different things, is the payment and the form separately. So every state is different. I don't think we can make a blanket statement on that. And there was another question about
correct.
In Georgia, just to add in Georgia, you file online and you pay online, but I don't believe that we can do that through QuickBooks. I know we can't file the form online through QuickBooks for state unemployment.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Someone's asking about Form 943, which I'm not familiar with, Dawn. Do you know if 943 can be e-filed through? It's the agricultural annual, like it's like a 941 version for agriculture. Can you e-file that, or that has to be paper file?
I honestly, you weren't able to do it last year, but I don't know if they've changed it for, I haven't looked into it for January yet. But I'm happy, Hector, to get that back to you so that everyone gets that answer.
Okay,
because that's really important. Yeah, it's a popular form. So we have a oyster farm. It's considered a farm, so we are familiar with how that operates. I mean, other people have obviously agricultural and others, but yes. So so with that, we want to make sure that we're paying attention statewide, that you understand the implications or whatever happens. I'm sorry, Wisconsin, that you can't do anything electronically. We'll get those states to get their stuff together, right? But in the meantime, if you're not going to e-pay, you can certainly pay by check. So in this example, Wisconsin, we're going to take care of you. That's what I'm saying. We'll just do a check because we can't do it. Department of Revenue. What I love about the states, I'm going to tell you a little secret about this. With the states, so if a client has multiple bank accounts, you can set up their bank account to be able to, they can pick which account they want to pay it out of. So some clients we have, they're like, okay, I've got two bank accounts, one at Bank of America and one at Chase. And really the Chase account's my payroll account, but sometimes I don't have enough money to pay those payroll liabilities out of there. So can you just take it out of the Bank of America account? Well, you can set up both banks for e-pay through this system. And again, we can't get too hard into the details, but you'll see it in the course. You can pay out of whichever account you want with regards to the state. With the federal EFTPS, it's one or the, like it's only one account. It's a nightmare to try and change it. And in my opinion, it's very manual labor to get them to switch the accounts. It's getting a little bit better, but it's not like every day you can pick between the two. You will have separate logins, but I would say just for FYI, I love the ability to be able to pick for the state liabilities, which account I want to pull it out of. It literally reads the routing number and the account number, which is something I don't know if everybody knows that. But we've had some experience with clients on that. So anyway, we're going to set these up. It'll configure it. We're not going to worry about the errors. Again, you'll see all of this in the course itself. But here's where you set up the bank account for e-payment. So if we have the business checking, we'll put in the account number. Oh, there's no J in it though. I don't think any bank accounts yet are using the letter J. And then 211-74181. That's my routing number. So if anybody wants, that's not my account number, but anyone wants to pay. So you can go ahead and set up for e-pay, set all your bank accounts up. And then of course, if you want to be able to e-file those or e-pay the 941, what I love about this is it tells you exactly how to do that. So you can come in, it'll right at the end of the setup, it'll say, what's the difference between e-file and e-pay? What I love about Intuit is they just give you all the answers of what you need to do. Print that out and you'll know exactly what needs to happen there. So you need to understand you need to enroll. And you also need to enroll for forms, which again, we won't get into the forms, but we do in the course, how to e-file your 941. I would love a raise of hands of how many people are still manually printing, and don't be embarrassed, who are printing the 941s and mailing them into the IRS for your clients. If you're doing that, you can set it up through here and push a button. You just have to have the filing permission from your client. And there's a form to fill out. You give it to the client, they sign it, you submit it to the IRS, and now you're an enrolled preparer, basically, and you're able to e-file those returns for them. It is one of the greatest things that we did. Yes, you need a 10-digit code for that. That's what you do. You have to apply for it, and they'll give you a code for that. And it's so fantastic. You guys, if you do nothing else, if you're to look at that course and exactly how to set that up, it changes your life, to be totally honest. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and we would tell them if there's a frequency. So child support, you have to do it weekly on Mondays, okay? And there's certain the child support will tell you exactly when it has to be filed and so on and so forth. So you want to put that in there and then hit finish, because here's what's going to happen at the end of the day. We're going to come into our payroll liabilities, and you're going to notice I need to pay my fourth quarter by e-pay in 2 weeks. I have to pay my 941. So I can see there for the fourth quarter, for instance. I also can see for the first quarter of this year, what I've already paid him and what needs to be paid and when it needs to be paid. And I love having these schedules all set up. So it'll be read and warn you and say, you're late on your liabilities and all the rest of that stuff. It's so much fun. So anyway, this payroll liability section in payroll is fantastic. It will help you manage exactly what's happening within your client base. Filing forms, very similar. Okay, being able to file the forms, which is the last topic that we have. This is where setting up and being able to file these forms, again, down here at the bottom in the activities of this page, you'll see change filing method. So I see there are people in the chat where there's issues with if you're working for a firm and the partners don't want to give you permission to e-file forms. And I understand that that's a struggle, and I understand that sometimes we get into this mindset of risk, and I understand that, but at the same time, what's the risk of not getting a form received by the IRS, and how much are you spending? Are you tracking that piece of paper? Because trust me, we all know the IRS loses paperwork. So if you don't have the proof that you actually mailed that particular 941, now you have an even bigger liability, and you're spending money and manpower to do that. So whoever that was that said that they can't get their partners, you have them call me. I would love to talk to them, because it's something that I think our current status as filers needs to be more pristine, more precise, and be able to grab information at your fingertips. And that information will live within your data file. So I don't know if you notice here under filing history, and this is a really good point that maybe the partner will really love this. Down here in the filing history under e-filings, if I've e-filed a form, it's going to tell me the date I e-filed it, the status. Oh, sorry about that. What form it is, what period, what the tracking number is, the agency tracking number, and the audit trail. So if you want backup to cover the fact that you've issued or you've filed an unemployment return, because in Connecticut, $25, right? $25 for us if we don't file the unemployment return timely, regardless if you owe anything. Here's a way for you to have that CYA, cover yourself, and an audit trail with regards to that. As far as clients and the 941s and having them review them, I would just say to you, it really depends on your relationship with the client. If you are handling payroll yourself 100%, the numbers are on. If you think about it, I'll just use other outsourced system, such as Intuit, QBO full service, assisted payroll with QuickBooks. They're filing those returns on behalf of the client based on the information that they were provided, such as payroll, making paychecks. Understand that you now are becoming that full service. I've never seen Intuit give a 941 to a client to have them review before they issued the form. So just I think maybe think of it in that capacity. So if you're wondering, well, what, I want them to review the form. Well, that's only if they're preparing the payroll, I would say. If you're preparing, this is you with the full control of enhanced payroll for accountants. So I hope that clears that question up, and I hope that helps you kind of understand where that goes. Greg, did you have something you wanted to mention on that?
And this is the second polling? Is this the second polling question?
The third. This is the third.
I think the third.
Okay, this is the third.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's make it clear that the initial polling question, because some people had questions, the initial polling question was when we opened the webinar. So when it was first launched, the first polling question was in that first launch. Because some people have been asking that. And Hector, I would say anyone on this call, first of all, for the job costing, we mentioned T-sheets, which there's no better solution for time tracking, for minimizing employee theft, for being able to bring time into this particular enhanced payroll, which we do some of this with our clients, and we don't wait for hours. We will not roll like that. So if you want to be able to utilize T-sheets and become a pro T-sheets user, go ahead and shoot an email to Hector. And certainly just, they have it on their website. Feel free to jump on there and get connected with T-sheets. It really will save, number one, the employees are submitting their time, which for this particular product is really important because of Department of Labor. You want the employee to say, yes, I worked 30 hours, not 40, and make sure we're paying people properly. That helps you protect your client and helps you protect yourself when you're handling payroll scenarios. Yes, if the client does email you the hours, that's on the client, but my whole goal within our firm here at Powerful Accounting is to protect our clients, protect ourselves, and protect the employees. We're all in this together type of thing. And so in order to do that, there are systems and solutions in place that we need to put in place in order to solve those issues. And so again, T-sheets is our primary. Go ahead. You want to go with the poll? Are you good, Hector?
Yep. I'm going to close the polling question, and then I'm going to take presenter back, and It should be showing my PowerPoint screen.
But I had so much fun. I want to keep going, but go ahead.
I know. Some people leave at the top of the hour. So can you just double check and tell me that you can see my screen?
I cannot at this point myself.
How about now?
Now I can.
There we go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
There we go.
So she covered a really small piece of what the full scope of working with QuickBooks Payroll is. There was some questions about managing paid time off and vacation. Is that included in the training program, Greg? Because I don't know how to answer that. If that you guys covered that in there, how to do vacation time?
We did. We covered it. We covered the setup of the vacation time within the employee window. And that's really important if you're going to track that stuff right within QuickBooks so that it shows up on their timesheet or on their paycheck, that shows them how many hours they have available for sick time or vacation. It's in there.
So let me just go ahead and say, since we're on this screen, because this sale is starting now. So this product, again, it's around 6 hours long, and we only had 45 minutes, and maybe some of this felt a little bit rushed to some of you, and I apologize for that, but we just didn't have enough time. So this product goes through very, very carefully every single individual step. I know a number of you were asking if it goes step by step on how to set up particular payroll items step by step, how to set up employees, how to split that payroll between jobs and classes, and it runs through all of the specifics of paying your taxes and the liabilities and all that kind of stuff. It's normally $300. Yes?
I just want to say that somebody really wants to know about voiding paychecks. That's in there. We talk about when to void them, when to reverse them, all of that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure people know that's in there.
Yeah, and I'll add another thing too that's kind of a bonus in there. So many times when you go to the payroll liabilities section in the payroll center, it'll tell you that you have payroll liabilities due that you don't have due. And that's because they were paid incorrectly. This happens a lot of times when you have payroll liabilities that are half paid by the employee and half paid by the employer, and somebody just paid it through interbills. And so how to fix those payroll liabilities to get it right, I have those questions all the time on the tech support. So anyway, the product is normally $300. It's $149 for the next 24 hours. So that's dirt cheap, only for accountants. Here's the code up at the top. And we'll send this out again, but you might want to write this down because, again, it's only going to be good for 24 hours. And the other thing, and this is really kind of crazy, we offer at QuickBooks Made Easy unlimited tech support for a year and for 6 or 3 months. Now, the year tech support, and I have many accountants that are calling me, hundreds throughout the country, and it's not just me. We have a team of accountants that are ProAdvisors, advanced ProAdvisors that do nothing but help other people with their QuickBooks. So we will be glad to sign you up for that tech support. You can call 24 hours a day. We can dial in to your data file if you need, and we can do it for your clients. Of course, you'd need to be the one that called or somebody from your firm. It's $4.99. Normally, we're giving it away for $2.49 again for only 24 hours. So, and you can call on the weekends and you can call at night. So, I think that's all I want to say because those prices are crazy cheap. There's an additional discount, I think, Hector, that you're giving later. Yes.
Oh yeah. So Greg, so not everybody watches this live. Like some folks watch this afterwards in YouTube, and they may not watch it by tomorrow. I believe you're expiring your coupon tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, Friday.
Yes.
Friday, January 12th at midnight. So for the ones that watch it later that are still interested, I asked David, your assistant, to at least have a coupon of some sort afterwards, after the sale ends. So it's 50% off the next 2 days, and then 10% off afterwards if you don't take advantage of those. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to do, and Greg and Don, thank you very much for coming in, is even though you guys are obviously sharing your knowledge, and then at the same time, pitching your product, which is totally fine. I mean, that's the trade-off, right? We get two amazing presenters, Don and Greg, and instead you get your training product. I think they are right. There isn't a good QuickBooks Desktop training, QuickBooks Desktop payroll training product out there. I get a lot of the questions I get via email are about job costing and timesheet management and importing timesheets and managing vacation time and figuring out which items are deductible and which ones are not deductible. So either way, I wanted to just make sure that we at least add, even if you don't buy their training product, because you don't need to get in depth in QuickBooks Desktop Payroll, we wanted to add some value along the way in this CPE. So I would like to just know, that's what the polling question is for. Did you still, learn something new? Did you still get some value out of it? I do obviously encourage you guys that want to get into QuickBooks Desktop Payroll. They're supporting clients with it, are about to set it up in January, getting some clients into QuickBooks Desktop, especially for nonprofit, construction, anyone that needs job costing or class tracking at the item level is going to have to learn QuickBooks Desktop really well. So that's what this polling question is. I just want to make sure and know and understand if you did get some value out of it, at least with the brief, topic that Don covered. Of course, like you said, we could spend a whole week talking about payroll, and I'm sure Don will agree. I still learn little tiny weird things about QuickBooks Desktop Payroll here and then, just because it's got so many moving parts. Okay, so that's the last polling question. I'll close that up. And then again, it's QuickBooksMadeEasy.com. And then the The discount code is QBPH18. Okay, so we got all 4 polling questions done. We're about to wrap this up. We'd like to thank our sponsors, T-Sheets, timesheet management app that is compatible with QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, Aero Workflow to manage your workflow. If you're an accountant, especially January, new tax season, get your stuff in order this year. Check out the workflow application to manage all your tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities within your accounting firm. And then HubDoc, of course, is the best way to gather documents, bank statements, credit card statements, check deposits, check images, invoices, bills from your clients, and it does a lot of automation. Some of the upcoming episodes in the next 2 weeks, we'll have episode 2 of Apps Power Hour with our guest speaker, Heather Satterley, and Michelle Long will be in that episode. I don't really know exactly what the topics are. I just know it's called Apps Power Hour. I'm not involved with that one. And then I will be back on February 1st and the 8th for sales tax. Deep dive into sales tax with QuickBooks Desktop, and we'll have Avalara sponsoring that episode, and then deep dive into QuickBooks Online sales tax, and we'll have Avalara sponsoring that episode as well. Then on February 22nd and March 1st, not 100% sure what the topics will be for those. Probably A's, not sure, not gonna commit to it. And we'll have a guest speaker Qbox, and we'll talk about working with QuickBooks Desktop remotely, different tips and tricks on March 22nd. Now there's one more event, not that is a spin-off of QB Power Hour, which is Tax Power Hour on Wednesday, February the 7th. And we'll cover S corporations and entity selection in 2018. This is the year where entity selection is huge. It's extremely important. The tax law changed. If you don't already have an S corp, you're not taking advantage of the tax efficiency of the S corp. And then on top of that, there's a potential 20% reduction of your taxable income. So we'll have guest speaker Chris Reagan discuss that. Okay. So let's see what else we got, and that's it. So thank you very much. Join Michelle's LinkedIn group and join our Facebook group where we continue the discussion about QuickBooks and QuickBooks related topics. Just search us on Facebook, search QB Power Hour, join the group. You have to be accepted into it. I will obviously accept you, and that's it. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you again to Don and Greg for a fantastic presentation, and you have a wonderful day.